I love being wrong. Well, sometimes if it's wrong in a bad way, if I expect something positive and it turns out to be negative, then I hate being wrong. But when I'm expecting a hiding by Arsenal and we turn up with the best performance of the season, I am loving being incorrect about that game yesterday. After the game, I was thinking maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself with the excitement of only drawing a game. We drew against Arsenal. That was it. It wasn't a win, but it felt like it carried the buzz of a win after the game yesterday. I think it was the manner in which we got the draw as well as the actual outcome. I felt better after yesterday's draw against Arsenal than I did against the wins against Southampton and Fulham. How is that right? But it was. But I just thought I'd play it down a little bit and see how I feel tomorrow being today. I still feel the same. I still feel absolutely buzzing. I watched the entire game back earlier and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, just seeing the effort from all the players. There were some things that you don't necessarily see when watching it live. I thought I enjoyed this. What a fantastic performance that was. Was it perfect? Well, from one or two players, it was near close to perfection as you're going to get. But there was a lot of positives to take out of that game going forward. And if we play like that for the rest of the season, hypothetically, if we play like that for the rest of the season, not only do I think we'll stay up, I think we'll win that bloody damn European trophy as well. But that's a big if we play like that. My confidence in us playing like that for the rest of the season, I don't really have any, truth be told. I wish I did. I wish I could sit here and say, do you know what? Moyes has cracked it. That's what we're going to do for the remainder of the season. I don't think we will. Had we played like that for the entire season, I would thoroughly enjoyed what I'd seen so far from us this season. If we played like that all season, I wouldn't even necessarily want David Moyes sacked. There, I said it. That's how we played every single week. I'd have been sitting here saying I'm really enjoying it. But we haven't. We haven't played like that at all. It was the best performance of the season. Anyway, the news, if you like, we'll get back to the football and I'll interact with the live chat in just a second. But the news is that Arthur Masuaku has officially joined Besiktas. Obviously, he went off there on loan at the start of the season, surplus to requirements at West Ham as we brought in Emerson. He's gone over there. I'll be honest with you, I haven't a Scooby how he's done. I think the club mentioned he scored 2 goals so far for them this season while on loan, but he's not a striker. I'm not going to measure his success by how many goals he gets. But he's played 27 appearances for them. That's activated the obligation for them to purchase him. So he's gone off there. I don't know what the fee is. What was it, a couple of £1 million or something for the loan fee plus the permanent transfer? There wasn't really much in it. So financially, it's not really going to make much difference for West Ham. But Masuaku has now officially left and is a Besiktas player. So we will not see him at West Ham United again. I'll be honest with you, I'm not bothered. I think it's a good thing, actually, that he's left. I think as a footballer, average at best Premier League player, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think if you've done that, you've been incredibly successful being a footballer, the 1% of footballers in the world. But at West Ham, I mean, he just didn't have a position. He wasn't defensively good enough for a left back. He wasn't good enough going forward for a winger. Left wing back was sort of his best position, but even then he wasn't that good a left wing back because he was still suspect defensively and still didn't contribute enough for going forward. His best elements of the game, if you like, was his dribbling, was when he was taking players on in that. I always used to say he was most effective in the middle third of the pitch, which is unless you're a centre midfielder, is the worst part of the pitch to be effective of. You either want to be good at your defensive side or your offensive side, but I thought he was poor in both of those areas. So I'm kind of glad he's left, in all honesty. He scored a couple of good goals, some nice skills when he flicked over, was it Tottenham, when he flicked over the guy's head and backheeled it over his head once more kind of thing. So he had that element about him, but we've upgraded. Emerson, when we brought Emerson in, even though I wasn't that keen on Emerson originally, got that wrong as well. Hey, I'm admitting a lot of errors on my ways here. My opinion on Emerson wasn't that high when he first joined, but what he was, undisputedly, was an upgrade on Masuaku before he'd even kicked the ball in a West Ham shirt. Even before he'd done that, he was definitely an upgrade on Masuaku. So I'm pleased he's gone. Anyway, let's see what you are all saying. Declan says, I personally think King Arthur is at a bit of a loss. He was quite good at running at players, just needed a bit of coaching in final third. Could have been a good link up with Ben Rama. Hammer 1999 said he liked Masuaku for a bit of flair. I'm glad he's joined them permanently. Kane says, I thought before his injury he started finding form and consistency, but wasn't at the level when he came back. I mean, the one thing I will say is he did have good games. He wasn't, like I said, I'm not saying he's crappy. I think he was just average. Some poor games, some good games, a few more poorer ones than good ones. And for 6 million or whatever we spent on him, it's not the worst transfer we'll ever see at West Ham. He had his contribution, but that's the story of Arthur Masuaku at West Ham done. Now, going back to West Ham's game against Arsenal, keep your thoughts coming in, by the way. Dan saying Masuaku was a baller 20% of the time. The one thing I will say, when we got beat by Newcastle and the manner we got beat by Newcastle, that's the first time I worried about us getting relegated. Prior to that game, I was always we'll be okay, it's not going to be pretty, but we'll be okay. It was more based on other teams as much as ourselves. So I look at, Southampton, Forest, Leicester, Everton, Leeds. I look at those teams thinking we'll finish above 3 of them. But after Newcastle, that's the first time this season I thought, I don't know about this actually. We might get relegated because of just the way that we capitulated in the second half in particular, the attitude, the lack of desire. I was really worried. But yesterday's given me a massive boost. I mean, the league table looks a lot prettier now, doesn't it? That 3 teams are starting to just fall away a little bit. Southampton, Forest and Leicester, they're just starting to fall away. Some of them have got tough run-ins, as do we, I guess. But I'm feeling quite confident now that we're not going to go down. But like I said, if we could replicate that performance for the rest of the season, not only will we be fine, I think we could go on to win the trophy, but it's just a really big if at the minute. Steve says, he's talking to Bo, he says, anyone that says they'll win the Conference or the Premier League survival is off the head. Finances would be hit. I mean, you will lose all your best players. The one thing I will say, which is sort of the comeback to that, is that there are fans of clubs that have got relegated, such as Wigan, for example, but they've seen their club win a trophy, the FA Cup in this instance. And those fans say they wouldn't change it. Those fans say, actually, no, we're okay playing Championship. We've got used to it, but we had our day where we won that trophy. We've got that memory. It's a difficult one because I think there's 2 minds here. There is what you want as a fan in terms of memories and, of course, winning the trophy. But it's, like you said, the longevity of the football club. What's best for the football club going forward? It would be remaining in the Premier League. So it's not always the same thing. I remember once upon a time, when I was starting out in work, we all have those managers that sort of gives you advice that you just remember for the rest of your life. And I remember one manager telling me, what's right isn't always what's best. And I think sometimes I apply that to, everything in life, I guess, but football is one of those things. And I think this is one of those. What would be the best? Well, it'd be winning the trophy. What would be right? Well, staying in the Premier League. A bit like the David Moyes thing. Should Moyes go if we win the trophy and stay up? Should Moyes be dismissed in the summer? What's right isn't always what's best, but we'll discuss that in a separate video. Well, let's see what you're all saying. Keep getting your thoughts. Anything West Ham, just get your opinion in. Anything West Ham. It doesn't have to be questions, or it could be topic suggestions. It could be questions. It could just be your opinion about anything. And usually someone comes up with, I like to call it a community question. And it's a little bit controversial, but I like to then get your opinion. So if you've got a good one, pop in the live chat and we'll see what the rest of you are saying. Hammer 1999, that's not him, that is him. Hammer 1999 says, how many points keep us up? I think 6 more will do the job. Every game is winnable, apart from Man City playing how we did yesterday. Yeah, I think 2 wins is fine. I think actually 5 points because before yesterday, I thought we needed 2 wins. Obviously 6 points. Hey, maths genius here. So I think if we could get a draw and 2 more, a win and 2 more draws between now and then the season. I also think it depends on the games. I think it's important that we take points off teams around us. Possibly one of those wins being Leicester City, Leeds United, Bournemouth at the weekend would be handy as well. So it's all very well beating. Say we beat Man U and Liverpool, fantastic. But if we've gone lost to those teams around us, like Bournemouth and like Leeds, then not that it balances itself out, but it makes things a little bit tricky. It depends on the games you win. So while there's a points tally to aim for, I do think the fixtures are also important. And Alan, you've mugged me right off here. I've ignored the hair. I have ignored the haircut comments. You're correct. If you super chat me, do I have to respond? Yes, I do. So thank you for you paid £5 just to comment on my hair. I mean, I almost feel guilty, but thanks. You paid for a quarter of my haircut, so thank you very much. Johnny, I'm not Gonzo. Gonzo's the shorter one with grey hair, not much hair, balder than me, and he hasn't even had a cut. He says, do you think there's a massive overhaul? Katinsky taking over the club? Moyes leaving, buying Bellingham, would Rice state no? First of all, I know it's hypothetical. Before someone says it, Johnny's not suggesting that we buy Bellingham. Well, I don't think he is. I think he's hypothetically. I think Rice is gone. You know, his performances are good. He's not like checked out or anything per se, but yeah, he's going. That's not the right one. Where's it gone? There was a good one. Here we go. David G. There you are. Thank you, David G. Right, this is the community question. I want everyone's answer. So when you do answer, please make it obvious you're responding about Soufal. Put Soufal in your comments somewhere. Do we activate Soufal's 2-year option on his contract? He's our best right back, and he looked back to his best yesterday. Now, for context, Soufal's contract expires this summer. The club do have an option, but it's a 2-year option. There's not a 1-year option. Before someone says activate the 1-year option, there isn't one. So we give him a new contract, which, if you're Soufal, you're probably going to demand at least 2 years. Or we activate the 2-year contract on the terms he's on now, or we let him leave in the summer for free. Bear in mind how old he is, his performances, etc. I'll give mine in just a second, but I want you lot to get yours in about Vladimir Soufal. So what do you think about Vladimir Soufal? It's not 20 quid. The haircut isn't 20 quid. I tip. I like to tip, because then I believe they probably take more care when they do that. They might not. It's just my theory. Artel says yes to Soufal. Dan says absolutely on Soufal, but Bo says no, get rid of Soufal. We don't need an aging player. Phil says Soufal is our only effective right back. Of course, we renew. Andy would take it up. Matt would give him a new deal. Arthur would give him a new deal. Chris would activate it. Why wouldn't you? Don't see a downside. I'll tell you a downside in just a minute. Justin, good answer. Leave it up to the new manager. Jamie says yes, or we have Keda or Johnson there. Michael says Soufal deserves a new contract. He understands what West Ham is all about. Nick, in line with Justin, says we need to evaluate at the end of the season. Phil would give it to him as well. And Nick says keep Soufal, but sign a real right wing back to have flexibility on formation. Johnny would give him a new deal. He's a big fan of Soufal. Charlie says no, let him leave and upgrade. Hydro says 100%. Chippy says we have to activate it. Who else do we have? We need him as cover at least. Dave G said he'd keep Soufal and loan out Johnson, answering his own question. Understandably so. Alan says to activate the 2 years. Not sure he stays first choice, but he's reliable and a cost-effective player, even if it's second choice. Usual suspect says 100%. Cyclops says yes, but not as first choice as backup. Lucas says yes, would be a good backup option, but ultimately we need to upgrade both full-back positions. For me, I'm in two minds. I would wait. Usually these clauses have deadlines within them as to when you can trigger them. So I'm assuming it's still active, and assuming it's active until the end of the actual contract. I always wonder how these things work, because, you know, technically, if that option wasn't there, a foreign club can offer him a new contract now. Say Leverkusen still wanted him, they can offer him a deal if they want to. But because we've got that option, does that block it? I don't know how it works really. But the reason I'm in two minds, post-World Cup, I think he's been brilliant. I think he's been a really good player post-World Cup. Him and Bowen, and Rice, and Ogbonna, those are the four players off the top of my head that have stood out post-World Cup. Fabianski as well, probably. Those players have played really well for the second half of the Premier League. But in the first half of the season, he was rubbish. He was really bad so far. Last season, he was rubbish. He's had a really poor 18 months here. The last 6 months have been a big improvement, but I can't shake that sort of worry that if we do activate it and we get it wrong, we're sort of stuck with him for 2 years. And, well, just that, we're stuck with him. You know, is Ben Johnson playing well at the minute? Not really, but then you have to sort of make a decision on Ben Johnson before you can make one on Soufal, because Johnson needs a position. This playing him here, there, and everywhere is not helping him whatsoever. I think it's really hindered his progress. So the more right backs you have, the less chance Johnson's going to have of showcasing what he can do at the right back position. But I guess a lot of people answering that would probably say that they don't want Ben Johnson to be here next season. They'd rather get rid of him. So I'm in two minds about Soufal. His age obviously comes into consideration. I'd imagine he's on relatively low wages for a Premier League player as well. I think I'm happy with either, but I agree with what Justin said. If we have a new manager, I think he needs to be the one to decide. So for that reason, I wouldn't renew it. I wouldn't activate it just yet. And also, I think if you do, you risk him dropping off between now and the end of the season. So I'd make him wait until the end of the season as a bare minimum. But B, there's a problem with that, and that is us getting rid of David Moyes and getting a new manager in the space of 2 weeks with the season ending, so he's got enough time to evaluate his squad. And this is the difficult thing for any new manager. They're going to have to evaluate the squad without seeing the players in training or anything. They can look at the footage from this season. They can speak to the coaches that are still at the club. But ultimately, interaction on a personal level with the players is going to be minimal at best. And in terms of seeing them in training, never mind games, non-existent. Yes, when the friendlies come round, the new manager could evaluate players like Ben Johnson. But Soufal, Lanzini, Ogbonna, Fabianski, these players with their contracts running out, new manager's got no time whatsoever to decide on what to do with these players. We've got a rebuild job on our hand, and we've seen what happened when we tried to do it last time. Dominic saying about Fabianski, what do we do? About Fabianski, feel like the last 2 or 3 years he's been about to retire, and we've given him a 1 year extension. Well, he doesn't have a clause because we've triggered that last summer. But I think I probably get, I feel like he's got to go because of his age. But I'll tell you what, he's turning in big performances every single week. I think I would leave up to Fabianski. If Fabianski wanted a new deal, I'd give it to him. If Fabianski wished to go back to Poland, or if he wished to retire, I'd obviously allow him to do that as well. I'd let Fabianski decide. I think he's repaid what we paid for Fabianski. He's given us that back and then some. He's been an absolute bargain. And when it doesn't happen very often, but when that does happen, I always like to show a little bit of loyalty back to that player and say, look, because of your service, you decide. What do you want? If you want a new deal, here you are. Ian says, what do we think about Souček's performance? I still felt a lot passed him by. I'll be honest with you. I thought he was poor. And I feel bad saying it because it was a really good performance. I don't want to go on about it too much, and I won't go on about it too much, but I don't think Souček had a great game yesterday. I think in the first half, I think he had 2 passes in the first half. Second half, he improved a little bit, but he just went from very poor to poor. He was still quite invisible for me. I think the game did pass him by. Great team performance, but I felt like he was the weak link. I can't sit here and say that I feel like he played well because the good result and how I'm feeling really good after the game. I'm feeling really positive about the game. That doesn't mean I think Souček had a good game. I separate the two. The two things are completely separate. And I don't think Souček was, I don't think he was great. I mean, he worked hard, but he works hard all the time, doesn't he? Right. Let's see what you're saying. Michael says, try and get Tierney of Arsenal. I would love him. He's a bit injury prone. And yes, I know I'm biased, because I see him for Scotland. But I'll tell you what I do see for Scotland. He plays left centre-back. We play 3 at the back because we've got Tierney and Robertson. We've got 2 of the best left-backs in the league. So instead of leaving one out, we play both. So how do you cram them both in? Well, we play Tierney left centre-back and Robertson left wing-back. And Tierney plays that role superb. He's fantastic for Scotland in that role. I think at left-back, I think he's absolutely brilliant as well. Like I said, injury-prone, but that's why we could possibly afford him. That's why he might be 25 million, because if he wasn't injury prone, I think he'd play a lot more for Arsenal than he currently does. So if he was available, I would absolutely love him at West Ham. But this is where you need to have somebody that his backup has to be really good, because they're going to have a lot of game time. Andy said to let Fabianski go. Josh says he loves him, but his time is up. Lucas says Fabianski just won't quit. Artel says to let him go and promote Areola. Steve says Fabianski's time is up. Raja said Fabianski should be back up and nothing more. I'm surprised how many people are keen for dismissing Fabianski. I think he's having a really good season, to be honest with you. I do. I think he's having a great season. Matt says Kerr as a centre-back is actually a solid player. I agree. As a right back or left back, I'd rather have my grandma play there than Kerr. So would I, and she's dead. My grandma, not your grandma. I don't know if your grandma's dead. My grandma's dead, but I'd rather have a corpse playing at right back. I think we had a corpse playing centre midfield. I'm joking. Too far, Gio. Nice one. It's live. You can't edit it. You're stuck with it. Mary Poppins says, do you think West Ham know how to play around Paqueta's risk-taking? Should be built around that next season. I think when I watch some teams play and they just, like Bruno Fernandes at Man United, it's hard. Oh, by the way, thank you for the $10 super chat. Massively appreciate it. Helps channel out loads as well. So thank you very much. When you watch like Bruno Fernandes play and stuff, when he picks up the ball, Marcus Rashford's on the move. Rashford knows as soon as Fernandes gets it, just run. He's going to find you. And if he doesn't, he's not going to come far away. Same with Arsenal. If Odegaard gets it, Saka knows I can run. He's got the ability to pick me up. We need one or two players just to be a bit more like that with Paqueta. When Paqueta gets it, move. And we saw it against Ghent. Bowen made the run. Paqueta found him. Antonio did one at the weekend. Paqueta didn't find him. Gabriel snuffed it out. It was a good run by Antonio. Paqueta saw him, tried it, just didn't quite work out. I think there's more to come from us unlocking Paqueta's flair and ability. And I think it's going to be possibly getting in quicker players, but also players that are better at timing their runs. Cornet without the offside, right? Can we have a little bit of that? Maxwell Cornet's runs just a couple of seconds slower. Adam says, and this is for the live chat, so I want everybody to reply with their answer for this, and we'll see what your answers are. Who's been the best, worst, and most surprising summer signing of the season? And we'll keep it West Ham, please, not Premier League. West Ham. We can do a Premier League version of this in the summer. We've got loads of time in the summer, not much content. So we'll do the Premier League generic ones then. But best, worst, and surprising signing of the summer for West Ham. There's plenty of them. 160 million, 170, 200 million. I don't know. It fluctuates. While you're doing that, Eamon says that Fabianski deserves another 1-year contract. He's still good enough. Gavin says, bit of ageism going on here. Fabianski easily good enough for a reward. Max says, Fabianski deserves more credit. Keeper can't keep everything out. Defence have to take some. I think he's been really good, Fabianski. Really, really good. It surprised me how good he's been. I keep expecting him to get worse, but he's not done it. He's had a couple of dodgy games, by the way, but like, who hasn't? Stephen says, more than happy with Fabianski. Right, let's see what you're all saying now. Have you all been getting your answers in now? Artel says, Aguerd and Paqueta have been the best. I didn't mean to click on Charlie. Mr. Man says, Paqueta was surprising because apparently Newcastle wanted him and he chose us. The context, I think when he says surprising player, I don't think he means who we surprised we signed. I think he means who have we signed that's done better. There's an obvious one for me for surprising, and that's Emerson. Emerson's been far, far better than I thought it would be. Best, it's got to be Paqueta because he's the only one that's in the team. Worst, it's between Scamacca and Cornet, isn't it? I'm going to say Scamacca because it's not the ability of the boy. Crikey, I've sat here saying he's too good for West Ham. All right, I'm innocent when it comes to questioning Scamacca's ability. We spent £35 million on the guy and we've barely seen him. So I think best, Paqueta, surprising, Emerson, worst, Scamacca. That's my 3 locked in. Right, let's see what you're all saying. Alan says best, Paqueta, worst, Areola, surprising, Paqueta. Liam says best, Aguerd, worst, Cornet, surprising, Scamacca. Leo says best has been Paqueta and Downs, worst has been Scamacca, most surprising has been Emerson. Josh says worst signing has to be Cornet. His transfer has worked out about $1 million a minute this season. Raja says Cornet the worst, Emerson the best. Michael says Aguerd and Paqueta best. He's been surprised with Emerson. Nick says best Paqueta, surprising Emerson. Dan has Paqueta for the best, Scamacca for the worst, Emerson most surprising. There you go, Dan. Dan, you're the winner. Well done. Not really, we just agree, but I'm glad someone else has done it. You've justified my opinion. Nick says best has been Aguerd, worst has been Cornet, surprising has been Emerson. Dominic says the best has been Aguerd, worst has been Paqueta. Hasn't been bad, but hasn't justified 50 million yet. Surprising has been Emerson. Papa says best Paqueta, worst Kerr, surprising Emerson. And Brian says the best signings have been Paqueta and Gerd. Andy has said the worst has to be Kone for being out for so long. Timas says the best is Emerson. Dave G says the best is Paqueta and the worst is Skamaka. Charlie Walsh says the best has been Gerd, worst has been Tilo Kerr, and surprising has been Skamaka. Surprised we signed him and still tried to play him in the Antonio role. There's always one, isn't there? There's always one just can't answer the question normally, and it's always Charlie. To be fair, Dan just put best with nothing next to it. But look, it says best Paqueta, worst Kane, surprising Emerson. Jack, you'll catch up. What you missing out on? Not really much, but we're basically saying who's been the best, worst, and most surprising summer transfer for West Ham. Summer only. No Danny. I don't want any Danny Ings slander. I won't have it. Summer only. Adam says Paqueta's been the best. Kone's been the worst, and surprising has been Flynn Downs. Not many Flynn Downs things popping up here, actually, in any of the categories. Jack says best signing has been Pac-Man, surprising has been Downs, and worst has been Skamaka. Papa says, no way Skamaka has been the worst. Victor Moyes. I know, but that's why he's the worst signing. I can only speak for myself, but a lot of people are picking out Skamaka, right? But the reason I've picked him out for the worst signing is because he hasn't worked out. We spent 35 million on a striker, and it's square peg round hole stuff going on. We look best with Antonio up front. We spent 35 million. Actually, scrap that. We spent 50 million on two strikers, and in our best performance, we played Michail Antonio. Best performance of the season, Michail Antonio's been striker. Do you know something? If you go take our top three performances this season, wherever you think they might be, I would not be surprised you find Antonio is in all three of them. We've spent 50 million on two strikers, one with incredible potential, one with incredible Premier League pedigree, and we're relying on the guy that we've been relying on for the last couple of seasons, and Michail Antonio, and that's why he's the worst signing, in my opinion. Eamon agreed with me, but didn't read it out. I'm reading out as much as I can. All right, Leo, just shush. Just thank you very much. But I know what you've said now. But right, let's see what you are all saying. What centre back should we buy? We'll deal with that later on. Jack has now finally got his answer. He said, best has been Flynn Downs, worst has been Tilo Kerr, and surprising, nobody by the looks of it. It's Emerson. Emerson is definitely the surprising one, but I think it's because I had such low expectations. If he played a handful of decent games, I'd have been like, oh, okay. And he's done that. I think he's done okay. He's not been the best, but he's been better than I expected. Therefore, it's a surprise. Look, are we going to see Skamaka? I think it depends on the manager. I think it depends on who the manager is next season. If it's Moyes, I struggle to see Skamaka being at West Ham next year. Saying that, you've then got to question, do you have faith in the board identifying a manager to get the best out of this squad? And I think that's where it gets a little bit difficult for profiling a manager. What type of manager do you go for? Because our squad's a little bit mishmashed. It's not like a Brighton squad, which is very well identified and purchased, and they've got a clear ethos and identity for that team. So you go get a coach that fits the way that they play. Whereas us, we don't have that. We don't have an identity. Look at our strikers. We've got three of them. They're all completely different from each other. We don't have a manager. Do you know what I'm trying to say? What type of manager do you go get to get the best out of our attacking options? There isn't one, because it's so mumble-jumble put together that there's not really an answer. There's not an algorithm for getting the best out of them. But anyway, what do I know? That's why I'm a gobby Scotsman on the webcam. Timas is shouting at me, or talking loudly to be polite. What is your opinion on Downs? Underused, is my opinion on Flynn. I think he's, do you know something? The least surprising transfer of the summer. Do you know we're talking about the most surprising ones? The least one. Is exactly what I thought we were getting. Somebody neat and tidy in possession, somebody good out of possession, but not very exciting. He's not going to create anything. He's not going to score anything. Picks up a few yellow cards. Exactly what he did at Swansea is doing at West Ham. There are some signings that you look at Arsenal and take Zinchenko. it was just a 100% guaranteed success. Before you'd even put on an Arsenal shirt, you just knew it was going to work. And I think Flynn Downs is a bit like that at West Ham. You just knew what you were getting. There was no adventure, but that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes just knowing what you're buying is a good thing. Minimal risk was Flynn Downs. And I think, least surprising transfer. Papa, we've got a Fantasy League one. We've got the official Premier League one. I'm doing quite well in it, actually, since you bring it up. I never brought it up. Papa brought it up. I don't know if Fantasy 11... Oh, wait, hang on. I've just read your question. Sorry, Papa. Now you're meaning West Ham. I thought you were talking about FPL, and I was jumping at the chance to just point out that my FPL is going quite well. You weren't even asking that. It depends what league we're in, to be honest with you. It really does. But here we go. Jack is currently in half-time break before recording Hammerlytics. Shout out from Michael Antonio. Wild that it can be that good in channels at 33. Here's my man of match on Sunday. Jack, I gave him my man of match. 9 out of 10 performance I gave him because, just lacking the goal, but everything else he did. Jack, we'll do one last plug, then I'm going to disappear. Patreon, if you fancy joining Patreon, there's 2 reasons. First of all, got Hammerlytics with Jack. He's recording it at the minute. And second of all, I've recorded a podcast with Anton Ferdinand today. That is live on our Patreon in 29 minutes, 6 p.m. on Monday evening. That goes live. I spoke to Anton about the recent games. I asked Anton if he thinks Moyes should go in the summer, even if we stay up and win the Europa Conference League. We speak about the success of the under-18s, the atmosphere at the London Stadium, what he thinks is going to happen against Ghent and Bournemouth. It's half an hour long. I'll catch up with Anton maybe 2 weeks out of 3, roughly. It depends on his availability. But if you fancy heading over to Patreon, go to patreon.com/HammersChat. Links in description below. You can sign up from £3.60 per month. You help the channel financially. That's what you do. You support the channel, help us financially. We produce content. But in return for your money, you get exclusive content that's not available on YouTube, including the Anton Ferdinand podcast, including Hammerlytics with Jack and Charlie. Gads is asking, is it worth it for fans who live in USA? Hopefully, there's a Patreon that can then reply to you and tell you, but there's a lot of American patrons over there. Just Matt, does the lowest level give you access to all the videos? Most of the videos. You get the Anton Ferdinand one. You get the player ratings. So you go over it. It's there. It tells you. There's a list. Before you sign up, it does tell you. Hammer1999 says that he pays £6 a month and it's best £6 a month he spends. Thank you very much. Nick's from the States. He's got Patreon and he recommends getting it. So there you go. Don't take my word for it and take theirs. Adam says, if we stayed up and could you choose any player that got relegated, which one would you choose? You can only choose one. He's going with Harvey Barnes. Ooh. This is a naughty question. So the current bottom 3, Forest, Southampton, Leicester. Let's go with them. And I want everybody to answer this as well. So here you go. Jackie said Patreon's worth it as well. Thank you very much. Mary Poppins, Brazilian, live in USA. It's worth it. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. So thank you to everybody that's shouting out the Patreon. Thank you. Now I want your questions. If you could buy someone from one of the 3 teams, Everton, Forest, and Leicester, who would you buy? Get it into the live chat and let's see what you're all saying. Phil says Onana. Matt says Ben Johnson. Dave G says Lavia. That was my first answer. When that came up, I thought that's my first answer. Artel's Onana. Smith is also Ben Johnson. Jack is also Lavia. Papa is Madison. Nick says, Nick, Lucas, the question from Adam says you can only have one. Who would you have? What are you giving me 2 options for? This is cheating. No, just one. John, Madison, thank you. You understand the question. Raja, Madison, Lavia from Mr. Man. Liam says Bazunu. Good choice. I can't when people say names like that, I'm like, I've got no debate. Yeah, you can have that one. Chris says Patreon's worth it for the WhatsApp group alone is worth the money. Plenty of laughs, great content. Thank you very much. Leo wants James Maddison. Arthur wants James Maddison. Jackie wants James Maddison. But David wants Lavia. Hammer 1999 is cheating. Johnny is also cheating. Stephen doesn't want Lingard. Ward Price says Paul. Jay Ling says Richard. Barnes says Jackie, who also said Madison. You're just cheating in a different way now. Steve says Ward Prowse. Jackie, you can't have them all. You're not getting Onana as well. Chris says, Just one. James says Salisu. There we go. Someone understands the question. Salisu says, James, Jack would like half the Southampton team. Give me Alcaraz. And it just can't. No, you can't have Jeffrey Schlupp. First of all, he's crap. And second of all, he's Palace. James Ward-Prowse says, Lucas. Papa says, Kyle Walker-Peters. Good selection. I love Kyle Walker-Peters. Mr. Man says him as well. Honestly, I love Kyle Walker-Peters is underrated, and I will argue with anyone. I think he's Mr. Consistency. Hammer 1999 says, people are saying they want Ward and Prowse. How's that fair? Hey, very good. Very good. I see what you're doing there. I don't know who I'd go for. I think it sort of depends on who leaves. Obviously, Declan Rice leaves. Lavia is the answer. Harvey Barnes, if Moyes was here next season, Harvey Barnes would just be incredible under David Moyes. David Moyes would just love Harvey Barnes. Do we need a centre-back? I don't think so. So Belka, Chap, Salisu, good options, but I don't think we need one. I've got to stick with Lavia. I'm just trying to think of my sort of second choice. Do you know something? Wild card in it. Just to be different, because nobody's said him, right? To wild card it. Patson Daka. I think that would be my wild card option. I think there's a top player in there. I'm convinced there's still a top player in there. And would he work at West Ham? Perhaps not. But I think he's somebody that I just think potential unlocked. Patson Daka would possibly be my choice. I'm assuming you mean Navas. He's on loan though, isn't he? So is Dean Henderson. That's the problem they've got. They've got two on loan players. Anyway, right. I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for joining me, though. If you've enjoyed this, please do drop a like on it, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Like I said, you fancy a little bit more Hammers chat, Anton Ferdinand and all that, go to patreon.com/Hammers chat. Links in description. Just go under the video. It's there. Just click the link and it gives you all the options. And if you do sign up, thank you. It helps the channel a lot more than you can imagine. I shall catch up with you tomorrow. See you then.